The smell of my burned daughter's teddy bear still clung to my robe when Constance Whitmore walked into my courtroom like she owned it. That same psychotic smile she wore when she poured bleach on my wife's roses, when she stole money from neighbors, when she watched my house burn to ash. But she made one fatal mistake. She never learned who she was destroying. I'm Federal Judge Thaddeus Morrison, and she just committed arson against the one man in this district with the legal power to erase her existence. 18 months of psychological warfare ended with one moment of reckoning. She thought burning my house would silence me. Instead, she handed me the match to torch her empire. Let me take you back to where it began. Before the fire. Before the headlines. When I was just a dad trying to hold his family together. 2 years ago, life was damn near perfect. My name's Thaddeus Morrison. Thad to friends, a 15-year federal prosecutor who'd put away everyone from cartel bosses to corrupt senators. My 12-year-old daughter, Zara, and I lived in a modest blue Craftsman in Willowbrook Heights, a quiet Michigan neighborhood where everyone smiled and waved. Even after cancer took my wife Sarah 3 years before, her presence lingered in every wall. The creak in the hallway sounded like her laugh. The smell of coffee in her favorite mug kept me grounded. I was that guy everyone trusted, mowing lawns for old neighbors, coaching Little League, hosting summer cookouts. Our street was a patchwork of good people. We had block parties, kids playing tag until the porch lights came on, and a community garden that Sarah had helped start. It was peace. Until the devil moved in next door. Constance Whitmore arrived in a white Escalade that screamed insecurity. Designer clothes, spray-tanned smile, fake warmth. Within 72 hours, she printed. Business cards calling herself HOA Compliance. Coordinator. Never mind our HOA hadn't held a meeting since 1989. She smelled power the way sharks smell. Blood. She strutted around with a clipboard, clicking her heels on the pavement, measuring lawns, snapping photos, telling people they were violating neighborhood standards. Her perfume reeked like plastic vanilla and arrogance. The first target of her campaign was my mailbox, the one Sarah painted by hand when she was pregnant. Constance declared it non-compliant and demanded I replace it in 48 hours or pay daily fines. I'm a federal prosecutor. I can spot a fake law faster than I can smell bad coffee. I wrote a polite letter explaining that our HOA had no authority and that harassment of a federal employee violated Title 42. I expected that to end it. Instead, it lit the fuse. 3 mornings later, I woke to my sprinklers running full blast even though I'd winterized them. I walked outside expecting a leak and found Constance in Sarah's memorial rose garden spraying something from a bottle. "Morning, Thad," she chirped. "Just helping with your pest problem." The chemical stench hit me hard. She was spraying industrial herbicide directly on Sarah's roses, the same ones my wife made me swear to keep alive before she died. "You're killing them!" I shouted. Constance smiled that dead-eyed shark smile. "They attract bees, a health hazard. You wouldn't want to endanger children, would you?" I wanted to scream to drag her off my lawn, but I knew she wanted that reaction. So I bit it back. When she left, I watched those roses blacken in the moonlight, and something inside me hardened. The next day, I installed 6 security cameras, motion sensors, full night vision, cloud backup. Prosecutors learn early that evil always escalates, and I was right. 2 nights later, motion alerts woke me at 2:47 a.m. There she was, Constance, dressed in black, creeping through my yard. She poured bleach onto the soil, planted fake violation notices under rocks, forged signatures from neighbors. Even Mrs. Lucy, our 87-year-old widow who could barely hold a pen. I had her. Video evidence, timestamps, clear criminal intent. I marched into the police station with my evidence. Sergeant Rick Bellows took one look at me and slid the folder back across his desk. "Mrs. Whitmore's a pillar of the community," he said. "Maybe you're seeing threats that aren't there." That's when I realized I wasn't just fighting a lunatic neighbor. I was fighting corruption. 3 weeks later, during Zara's birthday weekend, Constance escalated again. My sister Rebecca drove from Portland to visit. At dawn, pounding on the door jolted us awake. Outside, a tow truck was dragging her car away. "Hey, what the hell are you doing?" I shouted. The driver, tattoos up his neck, muttered, "Guest parking violation." 200 in fees. Constance appeared behind him, holding a clipboard like it was a sword. "New overnight parking rules," she said sweetly. "Notices went out Friday." The tow truck logo read, "Bellows Recovery Services." The same Bellows as the cop who'd dismissed my complaint. That afternoon, while Rebecca spent her savings getting her car back, I spent mine digging through county records. What I found made my blood run cold. Our HOA was never legally incorporated. No authority. No enforcement power. But there were 47 official violations filed under Constance's signature. Every single one targeting single parents, minorities, and the elderly. And Bellows Recovery Services? Owned by Sergeant Bellows' brother, a convicted fraudster with a suspended license. It was a perfect little triangle of extortion. Constance fabricated violations, the sergeant buried complaints, and the brother cashed in. That night, I found Zara on her floor piecing together a torn photograph, her mom teaching her to ride a tricycle. "The truck guy dropped it," she whispered. Watching her tape together, that memory broke me in a way nothing else had. 2 weeks later, Constance crossed the final line. During a court session, my phone buzzed with a dozen missed calls. "Zara's school." I bolted from the courthouse. Zara sat in the nurse's office, pale, trembling, clutching her inhaler. "There were men in our house," she cried. They had cameras. 2 strangers claiming to be inspectors had broken in, taking pictures of every room. Their business cards read, "Morrison Property Assessments, LLC, a company registered that morning under my name." The inspector was Constance's cousin Derek, a career junkie. That night, I filed for an emergency restraining order. Judge Patricia Hernandez, who had known Sarah, granted it immediately. Constance was legally forbidden from approaching us. For 14 hours, I felt relief. The next morning, Constance stood on my porch sipping coffee beside 2 officers. "She says you threatened her life," Bellows said. "Claims you told her you'd bury her. She'd filed a counter order." 2 restraining orders, each claiming the other was dangerous. She'd engineered a stalemate. But what she didn't know, false reporting to federal authorities is a felony. And I was done playing defense. That night I called Marcus Webb, my old law school roommate, now an FBI financial crimes agent. "Marcus, I need you to dig deep into Constance Whitmore. Something stinks." 2 days later, he called back. "Your HOA queen's broke, Thad. 89 grand in back taxes, husband gone, 17 maxed out credit cards. And she's been collecting HOA fees from neighbors, $340,000. No legitimate account. She's pocketing it all." Everything snapped into focus. This wasn't just harassment. It was organized crime wearing yoga pants. I pulled in every favor I had. FBI agent Rebecca Torres specialized in housing fraud. "Jesus, Thad," she said. "Federal employee harassment, mail fraud, fake HOA authority. This is gold. I'll have a task force ready in days." IRS investigator Sarah Lucy jumped on Constance's unreported income. DOJ attorney Maria Santos from Civil Rights took the discrimination angle. Within a week, we had a multi-agency investigation humming quietly under the surface. Meanwhile, I went door to door gathering statements. Mrs. Lucy admitted she'd been paying fees out of fear Constance would call immigration on her grandson. Young couples had forked over hundreds to avoid fake citations. One single mother confessed she'd been threatened with child protective services if she didn't pay pool maintenance. Fees. We didn't even have a pool. Detective Luis Mendoza from the state's corruption unit joined in, installing hidden cameras and tapping Constance's phone. The recordings were sickening, her laughing with Derek, mocking her victims. "Target the single parents and old people first. They're too scared to fight back." For the first time in months, I slept soundly, not because I felt safe, but because I knew justice was coming. 3 weeks into the investigation, she struck again. I came home to find the front door ajar, drawers overturned, papers scattered. On the kitchen table sat a manila envelope labeled Evidence of Judicial Misconduct. Inside, forged bank records and emails suggesting I'd taken bribes. And on top, a letter threatening Constance, signed in my name. Nice try. The FBI had footage of Derek planting it while she directed him over Bluetooth. Her voice on tape. "Leave it where he'll find it. Make sure you get his fingerprints. The next morning, local news ran with it. Federal judge under investigation for corruption. Anonymous neighbors, grainy photos, pure theater. Within hours, my office was flooded with calls. Then Zara's school phoned. Child Protective Services is coming for a welfare check. When CPS agent Janet Mills arrived, she saw through it immediately. This is harassment, she said, walking through our spotless house. But they'll try again. People like this always do. That night, Torres called. We intercepted a call between Constance and Derek. She's talking about a permanent solution. You need to be careful. I laughed bitterly. She won't stop until she burns everything. Tuesday afternoon proved me right. I was mid-cross-examination in a federal case when my phone buzzed. House fire at 847 Maple Street. My heart stopped. I drove like a madman through red lights. Smoke stained the sky 3 blocks away. Fire trucks surrounded what used to be my home. Zara stood on Mrs. Lucy's lawn, crying, soot-streaked but alive. She'd come home from school and seen the smoke. Mrs. Lucy pulled her inside and called 911. Fire Marshal Davidson met me at the tape. Accelerant in the basement, he said. Looks intentional. ATF's en route. Within hours, the ATF found accelerant residue, timer devices, and a discarded duffel bag with Derek Whitmore's fingerprints and his driver's license. He'd used his own credit card at Home Depot for supplies. By nightfall, he was in federal custody, babbling to save himself. She told me the judge was trying to ruin her life, he sobbed. Said if we burned his house, he'd back off. Promised me 10 grand. The FBI already had her on tape giving the order. Use enough accelerant to destroy everything. Start in the basement, hit his office. Even if someone gets hurt. They brought it on themselves. That was all we needed. At 11:30 p.m., a convoy of black SUVs surrounded her house. Agents swarmed the porch. Constance opened the door in silk pajamas. Mascara flawless, still pretending to be in control, until they cuffed her hands. For the first time in 18 months, Zara slept peacefully. 6 months later, the trial began. United States versus Constance and Derek Whitmore. By then, the story had exploded across the country. The HOA Karen arson trial dominated every headline. News vans lined the courthouse steps, reporters shoving microphones toward anyone who had ever waved hello to me. Willowbrook Heights became the national symbol of suburban tyranny and revenge. The courtroom was packed with victims. Mrs. Lucy sat front row, hands folded over her floral purse. Marcus Rodriguez and his wife held hands like survivors at a memorial. Every neighbor Constance had terrorized came to watch justice unfold. Then she entered, orange jumpsuit, shackled ankles, eyes hollow but still trying to smirk. The once impeccable queen of cul-de-sacs, reduced to a number printed on her sleeve. She scanned the gallery, maybe hoping for sympathy. Instead, she met the eyes of 23 people whose lives she'd tried to destroy. Prosecutor Amanda Walsh led the case with surgical precision. I couldn't participate, of course, conflict of interest, but I sat in the second row, Zara beside me. Walsh began with the timeline, the harassment, the fake HOA, the forged documents, the arson. Each piece of evidence hit like a hammer. She played the recordings. Constance's own voice, calm and smug. Use enough accelerant to destroy everything. You could hear her lighting a cigarette between sentences, like she was discussing garden decor instead of attempted murder. The courtroom went silent. Even the bailiff flinched. When Walsh finished, Judge Patricia Hernandez looked down from the bench. Mrs. Whitmore, you discussed burning a home with a child inside. Do you have anything to say? Constance hesitated, then made the mistake that sealed her fate. I was protecting the neighborhood, she said, chin lifted. Someone had to enforce the rules. Mr. Morrison thought being a federal employee made him special. The gasp that followed could have sucked the air out of the room. Judge Hernandez's tone turned to steel. You terrorized families. You stole hundreds of thousands. You nearly killed a 12-year-old child. You will never again mistake cruelty for authority. The gavel cracked. 15 years federal prison. No parole. Derek got 8 years for cooperation. Together, they owed $473,000 in restitution. As agents led Constance away, she looked over her shoulder one last time. Her smirk was gone. All that remained was fear, the kind she'd taught everyone else to feel. For the first time in almost 2 years, I exhaled. The aftermath didn't feel like victory. Not at first. The house was gone. Sarah's furniture, the photos, the smell of her perfume on the curtains, all ash. But the neighborhood rallied. Insurance money, restitution, and donations from around the country poured in. Reporters called us the street that fought back. We rebuilt from the foundation up. Steel beams instead of wood. Fireproof insulation. The new house rose like a fortress. Zara chose blue siding again. "Mom's color," she said. When the construction crew left, we planted a new garden where the old one had died. Every family Constance had targeted brought a flower. Roses, lilies, sunflowers, 23 symbols of survival. Mrs. Lucy came every morning to water them. The smell of soil and life replaced the scent of smoke. It took time, but the neighborhood changed. The fake HOA was gone. In its place, we built something real, transparent, democratic, fair. Our legitimate homeowners association formed under new federal oversight. I helped write its bylaws myself, each line a safeguard against future tyrants. Property values skyrocketed. Families moved in because of what we'd endured. Willowbrook Heights became known as the safest neighborhood in the county, not because of walls or patrols, but because people trusted each other again. Constance's money, what was recovered, went toward the Willowbrook Heights Justice Fund, a nonprofit we founded for victims of HOA abuse. Marcus Rodriguez became its director. He still laughs when he tells people the fund was built on Karen's karma. Within a year, the fund had already helped dozens of families nationwide. Some were veterans facing illegal fines, others single parents harassed over property violations. We sent lawyers, paid court fees, and taught them the same lesson we'd learned the hard way. Always demand incorporation papers. Always check the county registry. If an HOA can't prove it exists, their power is a lie, Congress noticed. Our case helped pass new national housing regulations, Constance's Law, requiring every HOA to register federally, undergo yearly audits, and submit background checks for leadership. For the first time, small-town bullies couldn't hide behind clipboards. The media called it the day suburbia fought back. But to me, it was simpler. It was about Zara laughing again. It was about seeing light in her eyes when she practiced softball in the rebuilt yard. The crack of her bat sounded like closure. 2 years after the fire, I sat in our new kitchen, sunlight through clean windows, roses blooming outside, and watched Zara practice driving. She'd grown into her mother's fire, her mother's smile. "Do you ever think about her?" she asked one night. "Constance?" She nodded. "Do you hate her?" I thought for a long moment. "No," I said finally. "Hate's a seed that poisons the soil. I'd rather grow something better." Zara smiled faintly. "That's so Mom. She was right." Sarah believed in turning pain into purpose. So that's what we did. The Willowbrook Heights Justice Fund became national within 3 years. We held seminars teaching homeowners their rights, funded public defenders for victims of housing fraud, even partnered with the FBI to help other communities under siege by fake associations. Constance's legacy became her own undoing. Her case was studied in law schools as the textbook example of residential extortion under color of authority. Her name, once spoken with fear, became a warning label. I received a letter from the Bureau one spring morning. Formal recognition for outstanding cooperation in exposing organized suburban crime. Inside the envelope was a photo. Me, Zara, and the rebuilt house. Underneath, a handwritten note from Agent Torres. "Predators always pick the wrong prey eventually. Every anniversary of the trial, I take Zara to the garden and we plant a new rose for each family Constance hurt. 23 blooms now fill the air with perfume instead of smoke. Each one carries a name. Each one reminds us that justice can bloom even after fire." But the real healing came at our 3rd annual community festival, a full-circle moment that felt like a movie ending. Hundreds gathered in the park that once sat empty during her reign. Kids ran between booths. Music played. The smell of barbecue replaced the chemical stench that used to hang over our lawns. Zara, now 16, stepped onto the small stage we'd built from donated lumber. The microphone trembled in her hand, but her voice was strong. "These scholarships," she said, "go to kids whose parents never surrendered to bullies. Because the best revenge is building something beautiful where they left ashes." The crowd erupted in applause. Reporters scribbled notes. Even I had to wipe my eyes. That night, as lanterns drifted into the sky, Marcus clapped me on the shoulder. "You know," he said, "Constance thought she ruled this place. But you turned her empire into hope." I laughed softly. "We all did." Later, when the last lantern vanished into the clouds, I looked at Zara beside me. "You know what your mom would say?" I asked. "She'd say to water the roses before bed," she answered, smiling. We did. Together. Constance Whitmore is now inmate in a 47891 at Danbury Federal Correctional Institution. She works laundry for 23 cents an hour. Derek washes dishes in Oregon under supervised release. Sergeant Bellows lost his pension and did 2 years for corruption. His brother's towing company was sold. The trucks now serve legitimate businesses instead of preying on families. They're forgotten by most. But every time I walk through our garden, I remember, not out of bitterness, but as proof. Evil doesn't vanish. It just runs out of room to hide. Our YouTube channel, HOA Stories, now has over 1 million followers. We feature true cases of ordinary families who fought back against fake authority, and every episode ends with the same message Sarah once told me. Good people win when they refuse to surrender. So, what would you do if your neighbor tried to destroy everything you love? Would you fight back? Would you expose them? Comment your revenge strategy below, and if you've ever faced your own HOA nightmare, tell us, because you're not alone. Together, we're proving that decency still wins, that communities can rebuild, that justice isn't just for courtrooms. Hit like, share this story, and subscribe to HOA Stories for more tales where justice wins and bullies lose. Because sometimes the strongest neighborhoods aren't the quietest. They're the ones that refuse to burn quietly.